Hey everyone, I've been asked to do a little bit of an address on the methods that I use for searching for data, and so I'm just going to go ahead and give us a quick little overview on searching for data, because this is maybe something that's a little bit new. This is what we refer to in the GIS world as secondary data acquisition. Primary data acquisition is where you go out and you map it yourself. Secondary data acquisition is where you acquire data that somebody else has already produced, possibly for the same purpose, but possibly for other purposes. This can actually include layers that are in somebody else's map as well, and we can do a little bit more talking later on about how to incorporate map layers into QGIS. Right now I'm just going to talk about downloadable data. It's a little simpler to grasp, but I will do a quick little address a little later on about accessing online live data. But let's take a quick look at how I would go ahead and search for some data. So to begin with, I have included, if we take a look at the D2L, and if we go to the content and look on down here, underneath the semester project, there is a link for data sources. And I've included a number of data sources that are decent resources. We are moving into the lab for roadkill, so that is going to be one. Do I have the? No, I don't have that one on here, but that's included. The USGS indeed the threatened and endangered species species habitat are in there, so feel free to go ahead and look into that. But let's take a look at some of the other resources that are available here. For one thing, there's this document here, which is let me go ahead and open these up separately here, just so I don't lose my landing page. This site, you'll notice, is kind of a link, and this is a curated list of good available sources with some good discussion on them. I like this one. This is good data. It's a couple years old, so some of the links might not work. Now, when you see something that's listed here as a service, this is going to be an online service, and we'll talk about that later. But there's some good resources in here that you can go ahead and you can keep your eye on. Here's a good link for administrative boundaries across the world, and it's been maybe a year since I've opened this one up, but yeah, that one is still accessing. Of course, you can go straight to data, and you can download the data by country, or you can download data by the entire world. And don't pay attention to their ads, but we can go ahead and we can choose. Let's say we have an interest in, well, I have a soft spot for Fiji, and we can take a look and look. It's available there in GeoPackage or shapefiles. Fairly straightforward data there. Let's take a look at some other data that's on here. So there's NASA Open Data. This one is a really good one. I like this excellent list of long data sets. If we go to the free GIS data, this one is curated, and this is a really good source for finding data of various categories. So if you're looking for particular areas, you can see this here. But similarly, there are data by topics, say by human geography, environment and ecology, natural disaster data. Dr. Wilson here actually manages a really nice curated list of data that's available out there. But a lot of times the data that you're looking for, you're just going to have to go search for. So let me show you what my method is. And so in this case, I started by, let's say I'm doing a project here in the state of Montana, and I might just go ahead and start with the Montana State Library. Montana State Library GIS, and the Montana State Library is an excellent resource for GIS data. Really, there's great aerial data. There's great infrastructure data. There's really terrific environmental data. There's all sorts of good things. So if we're taking a look at maybe for infrastructure sort of data, we might want to take a look at the Montana Spatial Data Infrastructure. Now, the MSDI is actually part of a larger data structure program, which is the national space, the NSDI, the National Spatial Data Infrastructure. And what this is an attempt to go ahead and get standardized data sets which are using the same attributes and the same metadata and the same georeferencing across the entire nation, and actually even going into Canada. So it's a North American data set. This is the Montana's entry into that, and so you can see that we do have things like administrative boundary, cadastral data for land ownership, imagery, land cover, hydrography, transportation. The transportation is going to include both roads and railroads, wetlands and riparian. There's just a whole bunch of really good data that's here. If you can find it within the MSDI, this is going to be probably some of your highest quality data as far as metadata and attribute data is concerned. So the Montana State Library is a great resource. However, I realize a lot of you are not in Montana and may not be doing your projects in Montana. That's fine. Most states have something similar to Montana. Now, Montana kind of punches above its weight in terms of the quality of its data source, but we can take a look. For example, let's just say if we're doing our project in New Jersey, and I'm just going to go ahead and search for New Jersey State GIS. There's a couple of options here. The New Jersey Geographic Information Network, that one sounds promising, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with that one. I always like to go ahead and open in a new tab so that my Google tab is still there for me to reference back to. Okay, so we're looking for elevation data or imagery, so that's pretty nice. Let's see what other kind of data they might have available for us here. And I'm going to go ahead down here to the bottom. The New Jersey Geographic Information Network. And let's take a look at their open data. Open data is, that's taking me back to kind of the same thing. Well, let's take a look at browsing data. Okay, so they're parting out to different partners here. So this is a little bit different. Let's take a look at OGIS. Okay, this is their open data portal. This is a format that you're going to see very often, is the open data portal. So this is going to be a good example here of what an open data portal would look like. Montana kind of delves into this a little bit, depending on the data source you're looking at. But let's take a look at New Jersey's open data portal. And let's say I want to go ahead and I don't necessarily see, what if I want to look for wetland data? I'm not seeing what I'm looking for right away, so I'm just going to go ahead and maybe search for wetland. And here we go. So we've got some file geodatabase and shapefile data of, this is a Burlington County thing, New Jersey imagery products. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one here. And again, this is going to be a fairly familiar sort of format. You'll see this format very often with several. Okay, so we've got various kinds of imagery here. I'm not certain where they're pulling wetland, how that's coming into here. Let's go ahead and view the full details. And the full details, okay, is going to give us links to data. Here's the orthophoto fly dates, elevation products, and there's going to be ways to open this in ArcGIS Online. Somewhere in here there will be the ability to download this data very often as well. Imagery products, Sometimes it's not available for download because it's such a large data set. So we may need to find additional sources if we're looking for imagery products. Which is going to lead me to let's talk about how to find some imagery products here, and I'll take you to a couple of my favorite data sources here. Let's take a look at. I believe I have a link for it in here. Well, the land cover data. So this is one that will come up in a future lab, which is the MRLC, and that is not. Oh, let me take that back. When a link doesn't work like this for you in D2L, sometimes what you just need to do is right click on it and say open in a new tab, and then it'll work just fine. So I'm not certain what's going on with D2L there. But the land cover data, there's lots of really good resources here under land cover. Some of it is something you can download geographically, but we can just go ahead to the download site, which is just offered right here. And from here, we can go ahead and we can look for specific data types, so ecological potential, exotic annual grasses, land cover, that sort of thing. In fact, let's just go to land cover. And we can take a look at various regions here. Let's take a look at the CONUS, which is the continental United States, or the conterminous United States. And here we can see land cover products available for numerous years. So here's the land cover change index, just straight up land cover, all years. And I can go into more. And if I go to this side here, I'm going to go ahead and download land cover for multiple data sets. This is going to be, oh, that's a big one. That's a 20 gigabyte download. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. But if I go ahead and I take a look, I can see data that's available for particular years instead of that one that's for all years. So maybe I want to go ahead and I want to do it for 2001. If I start downloading that, well, that one's just going to be a 1.8 gigabyte download. And the 2021 data here, if I restart that one is going to be also a 1.8 gigabyte download. So you can see there's various options that are available in here. Let's go on back to the website. There's the NAPE imagery, which is the National Agricultural Imagery Program. There's a good link for crop data here. Which is Cropscape, and in fact, if you just Google Cropscape, it'll get you there as well. Cropscape is a terrific source of agricultural data, which you can download both by year and by crop type. I'm sorry, I'm recording this at home, so it takes a few minutes to load these things. But go ahead and take a look at Cropscape. There's some really top-notch data here available in Cropscape, and you can specify your area of interest. Let me take you to a couple of other examples that are definitely listed in the excellent list of long data sets, but they're not one of my listed sets here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Earth Explorer. Okay, and I'm going to look for the USGS Earth Explorer here. Now this one can be a little bit of a trick because you do need to go ahead and create an account for downloading on this one. It's not that invasive. I wouldn't worry about doing an account for that. But the Earth Explorer is actually a really good site for downloading remotely sensed data. So any kind of imagery that you might want to need. If it's a US program, it's probably going to be available here within the Earth Explorer. So let's say I'm particularly interested in some Fort Peck data. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in into the Fort Peck area. First thing I need to do is specify what my area of download is going to be. Now I could go ahead and try to enter it in as far as, oh, here's my area down here. I could go ahead and define a polygon or upload a shapefile for a predetermined area. But quite honestly, it's probably just easiest for me to just go ahead and say use the map. So the area I've zoomed in on, I can just say use map, And now that you zoom out, you can see it went ahead and created points specifically for the area that I was zoomed in on. If I wanted to do it more manually, I could go ahead and say add coordinates, and I can do that quite manually, where I go ahead and type in the coordinates here. But I find it's easiest just to go ahead and say use the map. I can then zoom out, and if I really need to, I can actually move those points, and it will redistribute those coordinates. So, but I also need to, let me specify if I have a particular date range. So down here, I can go ahead and I can say, well, I'm interested in data from the 1990s. Let's say the 1950s through the 1990s. So I'm going to go ahead and just specify January 1st of 1950 to December 31st of 1999. I'll let that to be my date range. Oh, and just the fact that I'm using those keys there, I apologize. Those are also my camera keys. So I've typed in my dates here, and I want to specify what sort of data I want to use. So I want to find aerial imagery, and we'll go with single frames, and we'll go with NAPE, NHAP, NAP. Those are different programs. Mostly I'm looking for aerials. And then I'm going to go ahead and specify my results. And it's going to go ahead and search for anything within the 1950s through the 1990s. And you can see it's got 22 pages worth, so it found 2,000 different air photos. Now here I can go ahead and I can click on, say, a footprint, and that will show me, okay, that one just barely goes in, so I'm not going to worry about that one as much. That one covers a little bit more. There's a site that is well within, but it's actually not touching the lake, so I might need to go ahead and search through quite a few of these before I really find something. So here's where you can see that maybe uploading a shapefile of the lake would have been more useful in my search, because then it would particularly only pick out the frames that intersect the lake. So keep that in mind. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of picking through to try to find. I haven't even found one yet that actually touches the lake. But I can actually go ahead and I can take a look at a browse of the overlay of it as well. And so if I zoom in, now a lot of times this overlay may not be rotated the right way. So you did have to be careful of that. But once I found the ones I want, if I log in, then I will have access. And so that's just going to take me to login. But once I've logged in, I'll have access to downloading that data. So it's a really great data source. The other data source I would like you to be aware of is the national map. And so the national map is a great download tool. And I want to go to, actually, looks like the national map download version 2. This is the one we want. So this is a great one for downloading data that's not imagery, but some other great GIS data. So you can see elevation products are here. Hydrography is here. There is some imagery here, but topobathymetry here. Transportation, all sorts of really great things. Let's say I want to go ahead and I want to study the hydrography of Yellowstone. Once again, I'm going to need to go ahead and put in an extent, and I'm going to enter in an extent for the area right there. So I've just drawn a box, and I want to search the hydrography of this area here, and so I'm going to be fairly particular if I want. So we'll go for the HUC 8. If you're familiar with the with HUC format, this is a format which shows hydrologic unit areas. And I'm going to go ahead and search for that. So I'm going to search products. And doink, looks like I got an outage error. Looks like Science-Based Catalog System is down for intermittent outage. Well, I guess that's what I get for recording on the weekend. So that seems to be down right now. Hopefully that should be up. I've seen this kind of error come up before, and so they've got something that's down, and that should come up again. This will, again, though, be a good source for data for like elevation data. Where you see 3DEP, if you can get your hands on LiDAR data, that's going to be great. It's not always necessarily available. Generally, the best data that you can find, which is more or less universally available, is going to be the 1/3 arc second. This is your 10-meter data, which is kind of the standard around the US. So you can always count on finding 1/3 arc second data. If you can find 1 meter DEM, that's fantastic. That's generally LiDAR data. Or if you look under here, the 3DEP LiDAR and LFSAR, you can, if you can find that data, that's great. Go for that high quality data. Keep in mind you're going to need to keep your area fairly small because it's going to be a really big data source if you're looking at 1 meter elevation data. There's going to be just a almost infinite variety based on your subjects for what you want to look for. So I've talked about looking for state sources. I've talked about looking at these national clearinghouses, but you can certainly go ahead and Google search just for the particular data that you're looking for. So, for example, I know Carmela is working with looking for military lands programs. So let's maybe just go ahead and start with a search for DoD lands GIS. And here we can see that there are going to be sources on, here on ArcGIS for U.S. Department of Defense lands. And I might go ahead and try this one to begin with. Looks like there's some possible other sources here. And this is an ArcGIS hub, which is, again, an open data source sort of format here. And you can see that there is data that we can preview here as far as DoD lands that are available. And we can go ahead and we can download that right from here or from here. We can similarly go ahead and if it's a large data source, we can put in additional filters if we want to, or we can go and just go to download any particular format that we may want to use. GeoPackage is available. Sometimes shapefile will almost always be available, and so there's going to be multiple different options. So try those. Those bigger clearinghouses are nice if you kind of know what you're looking for. But if you don't know what you're looking for, just try searching particularly for that source of data, and let's see what they've got. I kind of knew already that the DoD was going to have pretty good land data. Now the thing is, okay, what do we want to go ahead and mix that with? Do we want to mix that with land cover data, wetland data? That's going to depend upon the area, sometimes the state. So, but it's very often just going to go ahead and search. Start with a search engine tool, just like I demonstrated right there. Feel free to explore around a little bit, and don't hesitate at all to ask my help. That's what I'm here for, and I'll be more than happy to help you look for your data set, whatever you might need. But in this kind of secondary data acquisition circumstance, let's look around. Very often this data is publicly available. The places where you may run into trouble finding data is anything that might involve, say, animal tracking. Very often that data is not released to the public, even if it's gained by public agencies like state wildlife management agencies, like Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. They very often don't release their tracking data unless it's for an academic purpose. And so sometimes we can actually go ahead and get a dialogue going with the agency involved, and sometimes they will release it for an academic paper. So the sooner we can start asking some questions, all the better. So go ahead and start looking around, and I'm here to help you find that data. So don't hesitate to reach out if you get hung up on any kind of a data search. I'm going to be joining in on the discussion here. So the Uncle Larry discussion, I gave you my feedback in your Uncle Larry paper submissions. The rest of that discussion I was kind of staying out of. That was for you guys to go ahead and participate in. But I will be making some comments in your project, your project discussions. So I may have some suggestions as far as data sources in there. But do go ahead and start looking around, and I'll be happy to help out. Okay, well, I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Till then, I'll talk to you again soon.